Welcome back to Footwork Focus. Week 2, we're talking about the 3 pillars of defense. And I owe a lot of credit for this concept to a mentor of mine, Ron Ekker. It was a longtime college coach and NBA assistant coach for a while, and really a great simplifier of concepts like this. Contain, contest, and rebound are our 3 pillars. And really what Coach Ekker helped me boil this down to is that if you do these 3 and only these 3, whether an individual defender or as a team, you're going to have a pretty high level of success. If you can contain the ball from driving close to the basket, you can contest the shots wherever they're taken, and you can rebound the misses once you cause them to miss by contesting the shot. So we're going to dive into each of these and get really specific with actually footwork, which is the focus of this course, and how the footwork ties into each of these pillars. Number 1 is contain a drive, be a dictator, what we call the 3 Ds of defense, establishing your floor position, using a stick arm to discourage a shot, basically having your arm straight out toward the ball. And then third is the L and X step. So getting really specific and again, simplifying all the defensive footwork down to 2 letters of the alphabet. So being a dictator, I like to picture that king with the scepter that says, "You shall not pass." Really being a dictator on defense, both forcing and focusing the offense on where you want them to go. So establishing your floor position to create a one-way street is how we like to talk about it. Rather than maybe squaring up to that offensive player, giving them a choice at right or left, you're going to overplay one side and force them to go only one direction. And that gives you a big strategic advantage, knowing where they're going to go before they know where they're going to have to go. And then forcing the ball back toward the pass, kind of universalizing which way to send a player. A lot of coaches will say, force them baseline, or even more specific to the player, force them to their weak hand. We like to force them back toward a lot of traffic. They're going to run into not only more defense on our team, but also their teammates in their way. They're going to have a bad time trying to get to the basket. It really helps us with that contain focus. So the stick arm, avoiding contradiction is what we're after here, where a lot of coaches will say, have high hands and have a low body position. If you try to do that at the same time, it really highlights how much of a contradiction that really is. And so the stick arm allows us to keep our hand at the height of the ball, but keep our body position low. And we're ready for their drive. And by having that stick arm, we are really bothering their shot, invading their space. Your arm is out toward their ball like you're going to touch it, and you're tracing it, if they're pivoting or ripping it across their body. Your hand is really annoying them even before they try to do anything with it. And so that alone can contribute to them not being willing to take a shot, or again, if they take the shot, you're ready to go up with them and match the height of the ball. And the big advantage we get from this is we're able to stay low and ready with our body position. So when they drive and we've influenced them to drive back toward the pass, the one-way street we want them to go, we're ready to go before they are. And we're maintaining our advantage on defense. The L step is really the first part of traction here, where our shoes meet the court, how our feet are actually moving to make this work. So if we're running full tilt out toward someone that just caught the pass at the 3-point line, and we are staying low, we have our stick arm out toward them, ready to go up if they decide to shoot over us. But we're low and ready so that the L step becomes very easy, and we're just running from forward to sliding sideways. We're making that L-shaped step. And again, if we've already chosen the direction we want them to go, and we're running slightly to that overplay side where we don't want them to go, then this becomes fairly simple to do. And again, we've got an advantage of knowing where they're going to have to end up going before they know where they're going to have to go. So we use our transition footwork, what we call the L step, and try to get really good at that transition from forward to sideways at a fast pace. And then using the floor position as a dictator and using the body position low and ready with our stick arm, we're ready to explode with our feet in the direction of the drive. And we've really got them in a box where we want them. We can contain them very easily. The X step is really just a progression of that. So if we run out and start sliding and they start running at their drive, we're going to lose the race, right? They're always going to be faster running forward than we are going to be sliding sideways. And so the X step is simply turning our hips and toes to match them with a running stride. And you'll hear coaches say, don't cross your feet on defense. They're really talking about don't slide and cross over your toes because you're going to tangle up your ankles. So what we're doing is intentionally turning our body to cross over into a run. And that allows us to gain a lot more distance per step, right? If you think about sliding on our court, we have some nice grid tiles and we can go about 3 tiles with a slide step. We can go about 6 tiles with a running stride step. And so we're doubling our effectiveness of each step by turning and running. And we usually only need to stay there for 2 or 3 sprinting steps to recover back to what we call chest wall position, where we're putting our chest between the player and the basket. And if we can stay in a slide, right, the advantage of a L step, staying in a slide is a better advantage because we're staying chest wall the whole time, but it is very necessary, very frequent to need to run to catch up and overplay again, stop that player's drive angle and force them to change direction. We're going to see a video demo here of both of these. Starting with the stick arm position, we're coming straight out to the ball, and then we're sliding, in this case, with the right foot first from the defender's standpoint. That is our L step, going from a run forward to a slide sideways. And then we can stay in that slide position if they change direction again, kind of making another L. And then here's our X step, simply taking that first attempted slide. So I'm going to still push my right foot out and then pivot and reach my left foot across to turn my hips into a run. And that's what we call our X step. And if we can get good at both of those, we can contain, slide, X step, slide again as needed, trying to always get back to chest wall position so that we're not ending up with our back turned to the ball where they can cross over or change direction behind us. We're recovering back to chest wall as soon as possible after each sprint step. Number 2, contest every shot. So the first piece we like to talk about here is the timing of this, being the second jumper. So going back to just body mechanics, the player with the ball on offense is always going to be slower bringing the ball up into a release motion of their shot than a defender that has no ball to worry about and can jump and shoot their arm straight up. So timing of this becomes a big advantage. If you're able to wait until they're already off the floor up into their shot and then go up and match them, you have a lot better ability to contain again so that you're not thrown off balance, you're not airborne and allowing them to drive by you. And then the second part is contesting their line of sight and not the line of their shot, right? So rather than the rainbow path of the ball way up in the air, all we need to contest is the laser beam line between their eyeballs and the rim, which is a lot easier to reach. Even if you're a short player, you can get your hand up to the level of their eyes pretty easily and have a very similar impact on their shooting percentage by causing more misses, just distracting their vision right at the time when they're taking the shot. And then the third point here is that you're able to cut your opponent's field goal percentage by about 50%. And we did a lot of tracking. We were part of a group actually with Coach Ron Ekker, I mentioned, that came up with the 3 pillars concept. We did a study with him across film of NBA and college and high school players, and it was very consistent, different percentages because of the skill level of players, but the level of defenders matches at each level of competition. And so it came out very much the same across the board. So NBA players that might shoot 70% from the 3-point line when they're uncontested and wide open, spot up shot, they dropped all the way to 35% when they were contested. And then, high school player that might shoot 40% that's uncontested is only going to shoot 20% when that hand is up in their face. So really playing the numbers game by just consistently contesting their vision every time they shoot, you're going to have a big impact. They'll still go on streaks where they might hit 3 shots in a row with your hand in their face, but we want to play the averages and just be there all the time, being annoyance in their face, contesting their vision. Let's see an example of contest. Being the second jumper here, shooter's going up. I'm nowhere near close enough to block the shot, but I am timing it so that my hand, again, is in the line of vision at the time the shot is released. So hand goes up clearly between shooter's eyes and the basket. I don't have to be anywhere near trying to block the shot. And this really prevents the problem of being up in the air too early and having the player blow by. It also prevents you from jumping into the shooter and fouling them after the shot, whether they make it or not. So we're jumping early and with some distance because we don't care about getting to the ball. We're just trying to get to that line of vision, and we can have a serious impact. Looking at the next aspect of defensive rebounding here, we're using the same contest hand that would also be our stick arm, contesting with that same hand, and now bumping and chasing the ball. Kind of our evolution of defensive rebounding to speed it up, especially in a guard position. I don't need to box out or hold that player back from getting the ball. I want to just put my body between them and the ball and get a head start on the race. So step number 3, rebound. First thing we're going to work on is training your eyes to anticipate where and when the ball is going to drop. And so getting really good at tracking the ball in the air, tracking how it's rotating in the air, how it's bouncing off the rim, starting to anticipate, how the ball comes out of the shooter's hand and where they're shooting from to predict where it's going to end up, and using that kind of superpower advantage to have a head start to get to the right spot before anybody else, majority of the time. And then we're going to talk about rebounding decisions, putting back, going straight up. It's a common term when you get a rebound versus kicking out if you're surrounded by traffic after a rebound. And then the defensive side, the bust out dribble of taking a live rebound and using that as an advantage to get a fast break opportunity and lead your team up the floor, whether you're actually the point guard or even used to handling the ball at all in your team. Getting used to having the ability to do that bust out dribble every time can be a huge advantage. So training your eyes, predicting where the ball is going, is really the first thing that can make you a really good rebounder, regardless of anything physically that you have as an attribute. You might not be fast or athletic, you might not be tall, which is usually the first excuse players have to not rebound is, I'm not the big guy, I can't reach the ball. But the ball bounces all over the place, all over the court. A rebound is just whoever got to it first, whether it bounced or rolled or got tipped around first or whatever. If you can anticipate where it's going and get to the ball first, regardless of where it's going, you're going to come up with a lot more rebounds than the average player. And if you can challenge yourself to try to catch it with 2 hands before it bounces, you can really start to refine and increase that ability to predict, right? If you got to get 25 feet across the court to get to the ball, you're going to really tune in your vision and your prediction ability to start to anticipate that enough. And sometimes the ball bounces differently than expected. It's kind of a 70-30 rule roughly of ball bouncing opposite the shooter versus bouncing back toward the shooter. So 70% of the time, it's going to go most likely where you expect it to go. And if you can get good at that, you might come up with 7 out of 10 rebounds because you're the first one there knowing where it was going to go. Racing to the ball is really the only way to end up getting the ball yourself. Boxing out is mostly too slow for most of the positions on the court, right? If you think about an average offense in modern basketball, we're going to have maybe one big guy near the basket. And so the other 4 players on the court should not really be boxing out. They should be doing what we call bump and chase, putting your body between the man and the ball, which is already your default defense position, and just making use of that position to bump them and then go get the ball. And if you're really good at predicting where the ball's going, combine that with a small bump to give yourself a head start, you're going to have a big advantage to actually end up with the ball in your hands. So winning the offensive approach, the aggressive approach to rebounding, rather than preventing your opponent from getting the ball. Offensive rebounding decisions. So even though this is our defensive week, we're going to tie together rebounding on the offense and the defensive side. So offensive rebounding, we like to talk about the decision between putting a shot back in the rim versus kicking it out to a teammate. We try to work on kind of the 2-to-1 ratio. If you've got 2 defenders on you, when you catch a rebound, somebody's open. We want to kick it out, maybe get a wide open shot if you've got a shooter as a teammate, or reset our offense and find a way to get a better shot where hopefully it's 1-on-1 or even 1-on-nobody with an uncontested shot. That way we are improving the probability of actually coming out with a quality shot and a make. Defensive rebound, again, we like to think about the live change of possession as the ultimate opportunity to score. So only 2 situations that arrive in basketball that bring this about. One is a steal, which is pretty obvious to most people. If you steal a pass or a dribble, you're going to probably go as fast as possible the other way and go score, because the other team was not expecting to lose the ball in a steal, and so they're not ready, and you have the element of surprise. But a defensive rebound, even though it has the same advantage built in, a lot of teams and a lot of players don't recognize it the same way. What we like to work on is the bust out dribble, getting that rebound in your hands and instantly attacking as fast as possible, catching the other team off guard and creating that element of surprise again. And even if it's only 2 dribbles, if you watch the NBA Finals, the Denver Nuggets were really, really good at this. Every player that got a rebound was attacking with the ball in their hands themselves, and everybody else was able to run ahead. And we had 5-on-3 opportunities all the time. Sometimes it was just coast to coast layup because Jokic got the rebound and everybody was spread out running, and he just kept going all the way to the basket. And even if you're a big, maybe awkward guy like Jokic, if you can take 2 bust out dribbles and lead a fast break, your whole team is going to have a lot more opportunities to score just by catching the other team off guard and already be attacking before they can recover and transition back to defense. So let's see some examples of our rebounding action. We already demonstrated our bump and chase briefly. We're looking at offensive rebounding here, and we're going to show you kind of our scoring method for this. So if you can get a 2-handed rebound, we count it as 2 points. And if you put it back in, you get 2 more. And then if you can touch it but not quite catch it, you get 1 point. And again, 2 points if you score. And then if you can't touch it before it bounces, you get 0. But again, you can still chase it down and drive it back in to score. So we do a 7 rebound test with that to try to get as high a score as possible. Defensive rebounding, we talked about. If we catch a rebound facing the backboard, we want to turn away from the middle of the court, away from the basket, to do our bust out dribble. That gives us our outside hand dribble, and we're naturally going away from where all the crowd of people is going to be in the middle of the court. So you can get really comfortable with that instinct of catch and turn outside and bust out with that outside hand. You're going to be away from most of the people that will attempt to deflect or stop it. And you're going to be able to reach the basket in only a few dribbles. We're working on tying together the 3 pillars. So we've got our stick arm, we've got our X and L step to contain, contest, and then we're going to rebound, finish the play. And we try to use this, what we call the trifecta. We're going to finish the workout this week with that exact action, trying to get the containment outside the paint, contest of whenever a shot's taken, and the rebound to finish every play after we bump and chase. So that's it for week 2. I look forward to seeing you on the court.